I'd like to teach y'all a technique called triphasic breathing. And to really appreciate how cool this technique is, we have to start by understanding a little bit about respiratory physiology. So the average human being has a lung capacity of about 5 liters. And on any given breath, we may inhale and exhale about half a liter of air. So the problem, though, is that if you actually think about it, when I fully breathe the air out of my lungs are not completely empty. There's actually air in here and air in my throat and even air in my mouth. And so I want y'all to think about it this way. When I breathe in, the first air that actually goes down into my lungs is actually the air in my throat. So this air goes into my lungs, and then sort of all the oxygen gets absorbed. And then when I breathe out, all of this air without oxygen goes back up and rests in my throat. So this is something called physiologic dead space, that essentially at the bottom of our lungs is air that's already been breathed, and when we exhale, that physiologic dead space air kind of travels up, but never actually mixes with sort of the outside air. So the first part of any breath that we take, or the first part of our inspiration, is actually air that has been sitting in our lungs for a long time. So if we think about it, how can we increase the total amount of air in our lungs? By taking a deep breath. So triphasic breathing allows us to get the percentage of air in our lungs to be more fresh, because we're going to increase the total amount of volume that goes into our lungs. So let's sort of demonstrate what that technique looks like. So triphasic breathing involves breathing with 3 different parts of our physiology. The way that our lungs expand is actually in 3 directions. So they don't expand this way because there's nothing to pull them in. But if I breathe with my belly, my diaphragm moves down and my lungs actually expand. So remember that the way that we breathe is by expanding our lungs, which creates a negative pressure. And once there is a negative pressure, air literally gets sucked into our lungs due to a pressure gradient. And when we breathe out, when we push in and compress our lungs, just like a plastic bag that you squeeze, the air is going to kind of come out from your mouth or your nose. So if we look at the directions of expansion and contraction, we have the diaphragm that create negative pressure by pulling the lungs down. We also have the rib cages or intercostal muscles, which if I breathe in, will sort of pull the lungs out. And then the last part is the clavicular muscles. So these are muscles up here that if I sort of breathe in, I can raise my shoulders a little bit and sort of inspire that way. So triphasic breathing aims to take advantage of all 3 of these muscle sets to create the biggest breath possible. And since we're making the biggest breath possible, we're actually getting the highest volume of fresh air into our lungs. So triphasic breathing starts with abdominal breathing. So what I want y'all to do is concentrate on your belly, and as you breathe in, try to push your belly out. And as you breathe out, pull your belly back in. And so this is called belly breathing, that with each inspiration, my belly button goes out, and with each expiration, my belly button actually moves towards my spine. So when you breathe in, push the abdomen out. And when you breathe out, pull the abdomen back in. Belly out while you breathe in. And belly in while you breathe out. We'll do one more breath. Belly out while you breathe in. And belly in while you breathe out. So that's the first phase of triphasic breathing. Then what we're going to do is sort of focus a little bit on our lungs. So what I want y'all to do is try to belly breathe while holding your lungs as still as possible. And then in that same breath, we're going to pause for a second and then shift our focus to expanding our lungs. And then we're going to pause for another second, and we're going to pop up our shoulders a little bit and try to suck in a little bit more air, which I'm not going to go into too much detail explaining because I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So let's get ready to start, okay? So first phase of breath, keep shoulders as still as possible, keep lungs as still as possible. They'll move a little bit, which is okay. Really focus on the abdomen. So breathe in. And now the rib cage. And now the shoulders. And then out. All together. And now start with the abdomen. Ribs, shoulders, and out. Abdomen, ribs, shoulders, and out. And now we're going to do 5 rounds with our eyes closed, and you kind of do it at your own pace. So start with the abdomen, ribs, and shoulders, and all out at once. And now do 4 more rounds on your own. And when you're ready, go ahead and come on back. So people may find that with those deep, deep breaths, they actually feel a little bit lightheaded, which is completely normal. Don't push yourself. If you start to be uncomfortable, you can stop the practice. But this is triphasic breathing. It's really going to help you sort of get a solid, full breath of fresh air into your lungs. Now, the first part of triphasic breathing is that we do sequential abdomen, rib cage, shoulders breathing. And then we sort of expire all at once. As you practice this on your own, you may find that you actually want to exhale in the opposite sequence. So as we breathe in through our abdomen, in through our chest, and with the shoulders, that you actually start by exhaling with the shoulders, then with the rib cage, and finally with the abdomen. Both versions are good. Arguably, the second one is a little bit more advanced. So feel free to experiment and sort of do what works for you.